In 1968, in Scotswood, a suburb of Newcastle upon Tyne, England, the smell of coal smoke and industrial dust still lingered. Rows of red brick houses lined the street. Chimneys were gray, the air was thick, the lights were dim. Children played in the streets, throwing stones, kicking balls, running between plastered walls. There was no talk of poverty, because everyone was equally poor. Life was harsh, rough, but quiet. In that scene, there existed a child that no one really saw: Mary Bell. Mary was born in 1957. Her mother, Betty, was only 17, a prostitute in the docks, often drunk and abusive. She tried to kill Mary many times with a pillow, with drugs, with a rope around her neck, but always stopped in time. When discovered, she simply said, "I was teaching her to endure." The apartment where mother and daughter lived was damp, messy, smelling of cigarette smoke and the sweat of a strange man. Mary grew up in that chaos, where hugs and slaps could come in the same breath. Neighbors said she rarely smiled. Her eyes were strange. When playing with other children, Mary often scared them, breaking doll heads, strangling cats, then laughing lightly as if nothing had happened. No one called the police, because it was just childish mischief. No one suspected that from those mischiefs, something else was forming. On the 25th of May 1968, the sun was mild. The wind from the Tyne River blew through the row of houses. A group of children discovered the body of a 4-year-old boy named Martin Brown in an abandoned house at 85 Street Margaret's Road. The house was dark, dusty, and smelled of damp wood. The police arrived and found the boy lying on his back, with no blood or obvious injuries. The death was ruled an accident, possibly a fall or asphyxiation, but the coroner noted one small detail: a few light marks around the neck. No one paid attention. A few days later, in the yard of a nearby elementary school, a piece of paper was found scrawled, "I kill so that I may come back." The handwriting was childish and clumsy. The teacher thought it was a joke and tore it up. Mary still showed up to class, neat, dark-haired, with a cold gaze. She was not suspected. Her world was quiet in a humid summer, until 2 months later. On the 31st of July 1968, another boy, Brian Howe, 3 years old, disappeared. His family searched the neighborhood, but could not find him. That evening, his body was found in the vacant lot behind the row of houses where the children played. There was a clear strangulation mark on his neck. His face was bruised, his hair was cut in small pieces, and his stomach was marked with a toy knife. One letter was scrawled, M. This time, the police could not ignore it. The whole Scotswood neighborhood was in fear. Doors were locked. Children were forbidden to go outside. The news was on the front pages of the local papers. Baby killer still free. Investigator James Dobson was assigned to the case. He noticed the similarities between the two cases. Same area, same age of victims, same strangulation marks. Dobson went from house to house, asking people. He noticed 2 little girls who often played around the lot: Mary Bell and Norma Bell, not related, just the same name. Norma was 13, gentle, awkward. Mary was younger, smart, quiet. When the police arrived, Mary was not afraid. She asked back, "Did people know Brian was strangled?" Information that had never been made public. Dobson looked at the child in front of him, small, hair tied up, eyes unwavering. When the police searched Mary's house, they found notebooks full of drawings of people with strangled necks and a small knife. Her mother screamed, blaming the police, the neighbors, society. But Mary just stood there, watching it all. She did not cry. At the police station, Norma confessed first. She said Mary had taken Brian away, strangled him, and then laughed. When the police questioned Mary, she denied it, then said, "I want to know what it feels like." On August 5, Mary was arrested. The whole of England was shocked, and one one-year-old child was charged with murder. The press dubbed her Little Killer. Schools, churches, and neighborhoods all expressed their opinions. No one believed a child could kill with such calmness. The trial began in December. Mary wore a black skirt and white blouse, sitting between two female police officers. She was too small to reach the bar. When psychiatrists testified, they said she had high intelligence but lacked emotional capacity. She did not understand the concept of guilt, nor did she feel fear. They called it psychopathic personality disorder. Mary did not cry. When the judge found her guilty of manslaughter by reason of mental disorder, the courtroom fell silent. She was sent to Red Bank Prison, Merseyside, a facility for serious juvenile offenders. At Red Bank, Mary lived like a ghost. She spoke little, did not communicate, and was very observant of others. One prison staff member said she often wrote incomplete sentences on the walls. "If I keep quiet, they won't hear me. Death has no smell. I just want to see how they stop breathing." Doctors tried therapy. Some thought she was a victim, some thought she was a monster. But Mary didn't respond to anyone. It wasn't until she was allowed to write in her diary that something began to emerge. In the pages, Mary described how she felt when she killed Martin Brown. It wasn't anger. It was like turning off the lights. People thought I hated them, but I was just curious to see if they would wake up if I did it. For 12 years, she was not allowed to leave the camp. When she was released in 1980, Mary was 23. The British government gave her a new identity, a secret address, and a lifetime protection order. The press was not allowed to reveal her whereabouts. She started a new life. No one knew who she was. But the public did not forget. Many people were outraged when Mary was released. They called her the Little Devil. Some wrote death threats. Others searched for her whereabouts. Mary moved many times. Later, she gave birth to a daughter. The child grew up not knowing that her mother was a murderer. It was only when the media discovered her true identity in 2003 that she learned the truth. The government had to ban the press from revealing the images of both of them. Mary Bell disappeared from the public eye, but her case is still mentioned in every criminology textbook. Experts talk about child psychopaths, but every time people try to analyze, define, explain, the story goes back to the beginning. And one one-year-old strangled two other children just to see what would happen. Behind that, there is a whole society that has forgotten its children. 1962, England was full of poverty, decrepit industrial estates, alcoholic parents, domestic violence. In that situation, Mary was no exception. She was just the first to act. Later psychologists asked, was Mary a product of her circumstances or the embodiment of pure evil? They dissected memories, medical records, family records, as if searching for a reason that would make the crime more understandable. But every reason fell apart. No one could say why a child could kill with such calm. Policeman Dobson, who arrested her, later said in his memoir, "When I looked into Mary's eyes, I saw no hatred, no fear, only a blank curiosity, as if she were watching death itself." The Mary Bell case changed the way Britain viewed child crime. The government created a program of child psychologists, child lawyers, and rehumanization in education. But even if the law changed, public opinion would never forgive. In the collective memory, Mary Bell was not a person, she was a symbol. Years later, journalists came to Scotswood. The place where Martin Brown was found was now a parking lot. No one could remember the exact location of the old house. The new residents knew nothing of the case. The children still played, still laughed. The wind blew through the rusted fence, carrying the dampness of the time. Only the old people remembered. They said that sometimes at dusk, they saw a little girl standing at the end of the street, her hair tied up, holding a doll, quietly watching the other children play. Then she disappeared. Maybe it was just a memory blurred by time. Or maybe it was the image of a child who had stood there, looked down at her hands, and realized that it could take her life. Mary Bell is now in her 60s. No one knows where she lives. All information is protected by law. Maybe she still wakes up every morning, makes tea, goes for walks, lives like a normal person. Maybe no one recognizes that woman as the child who shocked the nation. But if one day someone looked into her eyes, they might still see what the police in 1968 saw: a void. That void does not scream, does not bleed, does not threaten. It just exists, quietly, between those who believe they understand evil. Because sometimes, evil does not need motive, does not need hate, does not need darkness. It only needs a heart that has never been taught to love. Aberdeen, a small town in New South Wales, Australia, where the sky is always dry and the earth is red as old blood. In the 1990 seconds, it was a quiet, sparsely populated area where butchers, coal miners, and after-work beers lived. The wooden pubs, butcheries, gas stations, and grocery stores were all grayish-brown and smelled of rust. Life was routine, nothing out of the ordinary, until a woman turned love into the most brutal ritual murder in Australian history. Catherine Knight was born in 1955 in rural Tenterfield. Her childhood was nothing but violence. Her father, Ken Knight, was a hot-tempered abattoir worker who often beat his wife and children. Her mother, Barbara, had 6 children with another man before leaving home with Ken. The family was shunned by the entire town. In the small, alcohol-filled house, screams, throwing, and smashing occurred every night. As a child, Catherine witnessed her mother being beaten, then heard her say that men have only one thing in their heads. Those words were deeply ingrained in her, turning love into something that was always associated with pain. At school, she was quiet, did not study well, had no friends, and was easily angered. She once brought a knife to threaten her classmates, and once cut off the knee of a cat because it wouldn't listen. No one dared to be near her. As an adult, Catherine went to work at the Aberdeen Abattoir Meat Slaughterhouse. With a knife in her hand, she felt free. People said she had great skills cutting, peeling, separating tendons with just a few strokes. She often cleaned the knife carefully, sharpened it, and hung it on her bed as an ornament. She said it helped her sleep peacefully. In 1974, she married David Kellett. On their wedding night, when he stopped midway because he was tired, she strangled him, almost killing him. People said it was a joke. They lived together for a few years, had a child, and then divorced. Catherine then had several relationships. All ended in tragedy. One boyfriend was slashed in the face, another was stabbed, another had to flee town. Catherine was 40 when she met John Price in 1995. John, or Pricey as his friends called him, was a divorced miner with 3 children, gentle and lovable. He once told friends that Catherine was a little crazy, but she had a good heart. They moved into a small house in Aberdeen together. At first, things were peaceful. Catherine cooked well, loved to care for him, gave him gifts, and kissed him openly. But then jealousy returned. When John refused to marry her, she became angry. One night, she recorded a video of the things she stole from his house and sent it to the mine owner. John was fired. He kicked her out, but a few months later, he let her back in. Mutual love and fear. She always had a way to soften him: a meal, a hug, a few apologies. The cycle repeated itself dozens of times. In 1999, Catherine began to change. She collected new knives, bought a large pot, and started a diary. In it, she talked about betrayal and revenge. She told friends that if John left her, she would cut him to pieces. Everyone thought it was a statement made in the heat of the moment. In early 2000, John told the police, "If I die, it's her." But he didn't dare leave her. He loved his children, feared trouble, and didn't believe she would actually kill him. On the 28th of February 2000, he told friends she was coming to his house. They begged him to sleep somewhere else, but he just laughed. As the sun set, Aberdeen was bathed in a dry red light. Catherine drove to John's house. In her bag were knives and sedatives. She brought a blank videotape she wanted to record the last night. In the video, she talked about betrayal, about love that cannot die. That night, they had dinner, had sex, and went to bed. Everything seemed peaceful. At 3 a.m., Catherine got up, went to the kitchen. She took a knife and walked into the bedroom. John was still lying on his side, breathing evenly. She stabbed him in the chest. He jumped up, ran, and blood splattered all over the wall, leaving a trail from the bedroom to the door. He tried to open the door to escape, but the key was removed. He collapsed in the living room. Catherine stood watching for a few seconds, then continued stabbing, 37 times in total. When he was dead, she took a shower, changed clothes, and dragged the body into the living room. She took a scalpel and skinned him from head to toe, intact, like skinning a cow. Perfect technique. Then she hung the skin on a meat hook in the kitchen. Next, she cut off the head and hands and chopped the body into pieces. Some of them she cooked in a pot, some she put in the refrigerator. She cleared the table, placed 2 plates, each with human flesh, potatoes, pumpkin, and gravy. On each plate was a note with the names of John's 2 children, Ryan and Rebecca. On the sofa, she wrote a handwritten note. "You betrayed me. Now you know what it feels like to be betrayed." Then she took sleeping pills and lay down on the bed. The next morning, John's colleagues called the police. At 8 a.m., the police broke down the door. Inside, the smell of blood and cooked fat was thick. The TV was still on. The first police officer to enter the living room stopped. On the floor was a skinned body, hanging from a hook like in a slaughterhouse. One of the investigators vomited on the spot. The scene was beyond human endurance. In the kitchen, the stew was still simmering. Inside were human flesh, carrots, potatoes, onions. On the dining table, 2 plates were neatly arranged. Next to them were knives and forks and a glass of water. In the bedroom, Catherine lay motionless, breathing slowly, alive. When she woke up, she showed no fear. The doctor asked why she did it. She said she couldn't remember. When she was imprisoned, she wrote in a letter that everyone can lose control. "I just go further than them." The forensic doctor described. Catherine performed the act like a ritual. The skin was so perfect that it could be sewn back together like a shirt. Many psychologists believe that this was not just murder, but a ritual of absolute possession, turning the lover into an object, keeping the skin as a tangible memory of love. At the trial in 2001, The prosecutor presented photos of the crime scene. No one in the courtroom dared to look at it for long. An investigator had to leave the court. The judge said, "This is the most horrific case in the history of Australian justice." Catherine did not defend herself. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she remained silent. The verdict: life imprisonment without parole. The first woman in Australian history to receive this sentence. She was held at Silverwater Correctional Centre, Sydney. Single cell, white lights, iron doors. She was said to enjoy drawing, cooking, and talking to birds. She wrote to her mother that she was more peaceful than ever. When asked if she had any regrets, she said, "Nothing to regret." Her psychiatric records read: borderline personality disorder, aversive behavior, extreme possessiveness and controlling tendencies, and a lack of empathy. The forensic psychiatrist commented, "She understands what she did, she just doesn't see it as wrong." John Price's house has been abandoned for years. No one dares to enter. Neighbors said that when the wind blew hard, they heard the sound of the iron gate, like the sound of a knife being sharpened. Eventually, the house was demolished. The vacant lot now has only grass and a new fence. But the people of Aberdeen never forgot. John Price is buried in the local cemetery. The headstone reads, "A good man gone too soon." Each year, relatives still leave white flowers. They don't talk about Catherine anymore. No one wants to mention her name. Catherine Knight's story spread across Australia. Television, documentaries, books, all called her the woman of the slaughterhouse. Lady Macbeth of the Outback, the blood ritual. But the more people talked about her, the more afraid they became, because evil doesn't come from strangers, but from people they loved, cooked with, and slept with every night. Many experts in criminal behavior see Catherine as proof of the fusion of violence and love. Some say she was a victim of a violent generation. Others say she was pure evil. But in every analysis, there is always a gap, an inexplicable silence between action and feeling. In a letter to a former cellmate, Catherine wrote, "No one knows what it feels like to love so much that you have to keep a part of yourself." People read that sentence, not sure if it was a confession or a declaration. More than 2 decades later, Catherine Knight is still alive in prison. She has not asked for parole, has not given interviews, has not written a memoir. The press has repeatedly asked to see her, but she has refused. A prison guard said she still likes to cook, still hangs kitchen knives on the wall of her cell as usual. As the afternoon sun shines through the bars, her shadow stretches long on the wall, silent, motionless. Perhaps she is thinking about her days in Aberdeen, or listening to the sound of sharpening knives echoing from her memories. Out there, the town still exists. The slaughterhouse is still open. People still kill, still strip, still hang, still wash floors. No one thinks of it as violence, because it is work. But sometimes, when the night falls, the smell of blood mixes with the hot wind. They wonder, what is the difference between the hand that kills for work and the hand that kills for love? No one answers. Catherine Knight is still alive. She kills no more. But to Australia, her name has become a reminder that love can rot, and when it rots long enough, it is no longer love, it is a ritual of possession. There is no sound as terrible as the silence of someone who has just killed the one they love most. California, 2000. Bright white summer skies, endless suburban roads. In large houses with green lawns, people talk about peace, spirituality, yoga, and inner light. The New Age has led many to believe they can hear the voice of God, of energy, of the universe. and among them, some actually do or think they do. Mark Edward Hughes was born in 1970 inches Walnut Creek, California. His father was a Utah native, a Mormon. The family was strict. Everything had to follow the Book of Mormon. As a child, Mark learned that heaven was reserved for those chosen by God. In that religious light, he grew up with his two brothers, Justin and Glenn Taylor Helzer. All three went to church together, studied the Bible together, and believed that God had a plan for each soul. Glenn, born in 1970, was bright, handsome, and charismatic. He had been a Mormon missionary, preaching in Brazil, speaking fluent Portuguese. People loved him, but inside, there was a void, something no one saw. After returning, Glenn was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, depression, and mild paranoia. He stopped taking his medication, believing that treatment was against God's will. In the late 1990s, Glenn began to believe that he was the chosen one to cleanse humanity. He said the world was about to collapse, and only those who listened to him would be saved. He said he heard God's voice in the wind, on the phone, in the light of street lamps. In 1999, Glenn met Dawn Godman, a 32-year-old woman who had lost her way among spiritual healing groups. Dawn had attended meditation sessions, prayed, and listened to New Age music. She was gullible, she wanted to be guided, and Glenn did just that. He told her that they were destined to save the world, that they were children of thunder, instruments of God. Children of Thunder consisted of only 3 people: Glenn, his younger brother Justin, and Dawn. They lived in an apartment in Concord, California. During the day, they taught yoga, played music, and chanted prayers. At night, they planned a new era. They talked about a cleansing of the material world, where money and sin would be cleansed. But then, the light Glenn heard began to demand something else: blood. He thought that to save the world, they needed money. And to get money, they had to punish the greedy. His first targets were Annette and Ivan Steinman, a wealthy couple, old friends of his mother's, who had helped him learn the religion. They were kind, trusted Glenn, and treated him like a son. On the 30th of July 2000, Glenn, Justin, and Dawn arrived at their Pleasanton home armed with guns, knives, and duct tape. They talked about salvation, then held the couple captive, forcing them to write checks for $100,000. They then drove them to their apartment, injected them with heroin, and when they passed out, Glenn ordered them killed. Dawn stood outside the door, Justin holding her arms. Glenn slit their throats, one by one, leaving blood on the floor. They hid the bodies in a trash can and dumped them in the Mokelumne River. 3 days later, they killed a third person, a woman named Selena Bishop, 22, Glenn's girlfriend. She had no idea, only thought she was in love. But Glenn believed Selena could expose the plan, so she had to be cleaned up. Selena was killed, dismembered, and dumped in the Sonoma Mountains. A few days later, Glenn also killed Selena's mother and her boyfriend to cover his tracks. In all, over the course of 10 days, the Children of Thunder killed 5 people, all innocent. But Glenn felt no guilt. He believed God was guiding him. He told Dawn that the blood of the unenlightened is an offering. Dawn believed. She later said that when Glenn killed, she felt light in the room. They withdrew money from the bank with forged checks, spent it, and continued talking about a global mission. Glenn wanted to start a new church, the Church of the Atomic Children, to help humanity free itself from material desires. But madness can't last long in a world with police. On August 4, The bodies of Annette and Ivan Steinman were discovered in the Mokelumne River. Trash cans were floating, filled with bone fragments, hair, and blood. 2 days later, Selena Bishop's body was found in the woods, decapitated, naked. Police connected the cases, discovering a connection between Selena and Glenn Helzer. On August 7th, police surrounded the Concord apartment. Glenn and Justin were arrested. Dawn surrendered. Inside, police found a Children of Thunder notebook, a detailed plan: sacred fundraising, spiritual cleansing, material removal, and raising humanity to a higher frequency. The victims were listed in red pen. At the station, Glenn recounted the crimes as if reading the Bible. He said he was just following God. When asked how he felt, he said peace. Police recorded in his file, no emotion, totally convinced of religious delusion. Justin, the younger brother, was silent. He said he was just following his brother. Dawn was crying. She said Glenn had hypnotized her, that he was God. But before the law, they all have the same crime: mass murder. The 2001 trial in Contra Costa County captivated the nation. The press dubbed them Children of Thunder, the California murder cult. In court, Glenn smiled, spoke of light, of salvation. As the prosecutor read the names of his victims, he closed his eyes, as if in prayer. The court sentenced Glenn and Justin to death, and Dawn to life in prison. Glenn was transferred to San Quentin State Prison, the notorious prison that houses the most dangerous death row inmates in America. In the years that followed, Glenn continued to write letters to friends, signing himself Children of Light. He wrote that he was forgiven by God. In one letter he wrote, "We are tools. Blood is only the way. The world will understand after I leave." In 2013, Glenn Helzer died in prison, committing suicide by slitting his throat with a razor blade hidden in a book. Before he died, he wrote on the wall of his cell in blood, "The thunder returns. Justin is still alive, awaiting execution. Dawn Godman is still in prison, silent." Their story is a testament to the distortion of faith. No one told them to kill. No leader, no order from above. Just three lonely, lost men, looking for meaning in a material world, and appointing themselves as messengers. Criminologists say, Children of Thunder embodies false messiah syndrome, when people believe they are chosen to do wrong for a divine purpose. But look closely, and you'll see they're just little people, caught up in the illusion that sin can be cleansed by blood. In California, where religion, money, and freedom mingle, this tragedy is a product of that culture, a country that believes anyone can be a messiah if they believe enough. Glenn Helzer is not a demon. He's just a man who doesn't know the line between illusion and revelation. When he said, "God told me to do it," he believed it. And in that absolute faith, evil became pure, not out of hatred, not out of lust, only out of conviction. The silence of San Quentin prison after his death seemed as cold as the storm that had passed. No one came to claim the body. No funeral, no hymns, no God. Just a death certificate, signed in blue pen, with the last line, Glenn Taylor Helzer, male, white, age 43, death by suicide. Outside, the world still turned. New Age groups still existed, still talked about energy, salvation, vibrational frequency. Occasionally, in a seminar in California, people still mention the name Children of Thunder as an example of how faith can kill. But few knew that, in Glenn's eyes, it was not a sin. It was a mission. The apartment building in Concord where they killed has been demolished. Its site is now a parking lot. Passers-by have no idea that blood once spilled there. When the wind blows, the dust flies. The sunlight shines on the white paint, like streaks of light. A light, Glenn once said, was a message from God. There was no scream, no hatred, no rage. There was only absolute belief, a belief strong enough to bend morality, to erase humanity. In the end, when all excuses have been dropped, the children of thunder are left with only one thing. They killed because they believed that killing is saving. And that is the perfect form of evil. No scream, no rebellion, just a gentle saying, I did the right thing.